Sometimes you look at something you see every day, like a local sports club, and you just don't think twice about it. But what if I told you that some of them have these incredibly deep, surprising histories? Well, today we're going to peel back the layers on Brazil's very first sports clubs. And trust me, it's a wild story about immigration, identity, and how a nation's culture is really built.
So let's just start with the central mystery right away. How in the world did one of Brazil's first, most important sports clubs get the name Germania? That's the Latin word for Germany. It just feels wrong, right? Sitting there in the middle of Brazil? Well, the answer to that question tells us so much about how modern Brazil even came to be.
Okay, to get to the bottom of this club's name, we have to understand the people who built it. And this story, it doesn't start on a soccer pitch. It starts on packed ships crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
So, back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Brazil experienced this enormous wave of immigration from Europe. We're talking millions of people, all looking for a better life. But you can imagine, they arrive in this new, vast country, and it's completely isolating. So, what do? They start trying to build little pieces of their old homes in their new one. And this right here, this quote gets to the very heart of it. These clubs weren't just for fun and games. They were, and I quote, vital spaces. They were lifelines, really, a way for people to hang on to their identity, to who they were, in a place that felt totally alien. The best way to think about them is as a kind of cultural lifeboat. I mean, look at what they offered. This was way more than just sports. This was where you could speak your own language without being looked at funny. It's where you got help finding a job or a roof over your head. It's where you could celebrate your own holidays and make sure your kids didn't forget where they came from. They were absolutely essential. So you see, these clubs started out as a way to preserve the past, but they quickly turned into something more, like these amazing social laboratories where new identities were actually being created on the fly. Now, to really get this, we need to understand a couple of big ideas. First up is acculturation. Okay, don't let the word scare you. It's basically a two-way street of culture. The German immigrants, for instance, they're not just living in a bubble. They start picking up Brazilian foods, some of the language, local customs, all while still holding on to their German roots. It's a mix. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have assimilation. And this is way more extreme. This is when an immigrant group basically gives up its original culture entirely just to blend in and disappear into the bigger dominant culture. And for a lot of these clubs, their whole reason for existing was to fight against that very thing. And that brings us to the most fascinating idea of all, cultural hybridity. This is where the magic happens. It's not about losing your culture, and it's not just about adding a new one. It's about the two mixing together to create something brand new. A unique German-Brazilian culture that had never existed before. This slide just lays it out so perfectly. Look at the difference. Assimilation is all about replacement. One culture gets erased, but hybridity is about creation. Something new is born. And the story of a club like Germania is really the story of that shift, from just trying to preserve a culture to actively helping create a new one. So you've got these little cultural bubbles, right? All carefully figuring out who they are. And then one thing, a single sport, comes onto the scene and just changes the entire game. I mean that literally and figuratively. And yeah, you probably guessed it. That sport was football. Now, football, or soccer, it showed up in Brazil as this British thing. But its real power was how simple it was. You don't need fancy gear, you just need a ball and some space. And it just exploded. It spread like wildfire, cutting across every single social barrier. Class, money, where you were from, and most importantly for our story, your ethnicity. It became the national obsession. And this is the whole point. For a club like Germania, football became a bridge. It was suddenly a shared language. All of a sudden, this German club that was mostly looking inward now had a reason to go out and play against the Italian club, and the Portuguese club, and the local Brazilian clubs. The field became the ultimate meeting place. This chart just shows the shift so clearly. Look at that first bar. The club started out almost completely focused on preserving their own culture. But then football comes along and boom, that second bar, social integration, just skyrockets. And out of all that friendly competition, a totally new goal pops up, building a shared national identity. Okay, so let's bring it all home. What's the lasting legacy of these clubs? I mean, where did they end up, and what kind of mark do they leave on Brazil as a whole? You can pretty much track their entire journey in 3 simple steps. First, they were the enclave, a safe, exclusive bubble for their own people. Then, thanks to football, they became the bridge, connecting their community to the rest of society. And finally, they became a pillar, a foundational, respected part of the local scene, open to everybody and adding to this amazing shared culture.
And if you're going to remember one thing, let it be this. It's such a powerful idea. Their goal was preservation. They set out to build a little Germany in the middle of Brazil. But along the way, by playing and competing and just engaging with their new home, they ended up being part of something so much bigger, the creation of a brand new, uniquely Brazilian culture. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you drive past a local sports club or see a team's logo on a t-shirt, just for a second, ask yourself, what secret history is hiding there? What story of immigration, identity, and community is waiting to be told?